Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. A huge thank you to everybody who has commented, shared and followed along with the tutorials for our promotional weekend. The promotion continues until tonight, Monday, the 1st of September. It continues until 11:30 p.m. and if you use the code Tracy10, you can receive 10% off your basket until 11:30 this evening. I thought I'd share some of the inspiration that I've shared over the weekend. So we created these two cards in the previous video. And then the video before that, I created this card. Then our first video, I created this one. I just love the cards. And then in another video, I shared some shaving foam techniques with you in the previous one. And what I'm going to do for my final one is create another project. The one thing I didn't do was show you the background in, which card did I do it in? Was it that? Yes, it was this card with the Butylon that I did in the previous video. I had leftover paint and I didn't show you the background. This was the background. Listen to the texture. But I've got all these bits and pieces. I mean, that's lovely in its own right as a background. Just that I could use. And then I've got all these bits and pieces I can use as well. So I will use those in a project. Let me just move these out of the way. Oh, and during the shaving foam techniques, I showed you to create this background, the hair, the grunge stencil, just the shaving foam. And I did have one with, I sometimes question myself, I'm sure I had one with, I did. I wonder where that one went. Oh well, we did have one with the magnolia. Do you like how I couldn't get the word out then? And I've literally just seen it 2 seconds ago. Honestly, I wonder about myself at times. Well, it's not there now, is it? These are all the backgrounds I'm keeping so that I can create projects. There it is, look. There's the magnolia one as well that we created with the shaving foam. Thought I was losing my marbles then. Right. I haven't tidied my desk up, as you can see. All my elastic bands are still here. My stamps are still here. It's all still here. So I thought I'd create one more project. So let's move those out of the way. And I thought we'd create a project again with the Butylon. Just a nice, simple project. So I'm going to grab my VersaFine Clair Morning Mist. I actually need a new ink pad, but I think it'll be fine. So I've got a piece of Pink Frog super smooth card, 4 inches by 6 inches. Which way are you going to? Let's use it this way, yes. So I'm going to take the Butylon. Nobody knows, honestly. This is the problem when you leave your stuff out and you don't tidy up. You can't see the wood for the trees. There we go. So I'm using the Butylon stamp, TE7. So if I take my Morning Mist ink, we'll take a piece of copier paper just so that we can place that underneath, because I'm going to go over the edges. So lots of tapping, as we always do, especially if the stamp is quite detailed. And this is a really good size stamp. So I'm going to just stamp my image. And now I've got that porous surface because I've no longer no longer got any inks on there or anything, so the card has some absorbency. So just giving that a little bit of time just to absorb onto that surface. There we go, nice grey ink. And then I like the fact that my ink pad is quite worn, so it's quite pale. I think I might have look, it's there, the first one, and a Butalon mask. And what's funny is it's even got some low-tack tape on there. So I'll just use that Butalon mask that I use over and over again. So I've used that quite a few times, as you can see. Let's move this in here. So let's stamp that one there. So because I've stamped this one first, this one will appear behind. So just give that a little bit of time, particularly if, like me, you haven't got yourself a new ink pad, which I should. I've got no excuse, I mean, for goodness sake. But this, sometimes it's useful to have some ink pads that maybe you've used quite a bit. You can use those for techniques as well, which is fun. Also, you can re-ink them as well. There we go. Let's take that off there. So you can see that one is now behind that one. So if I take this one now, whatever I stamp now is going to go behind the one I am masking, particularly if I get it in the right place. There we go. No, you can see Tracy has a slight problem with getting her mask on there. So we're going to continue just adding that ink. So lots of tapping, mainly because this stamp is quite detailed. So now I'm going to, let's move those acrylic blocks because they're just going to get in the way. I'm now going to move this up a bit just so that we get a little bit of a different area of the Butalon. So we're actually creating a background. So just give that a little bit of time. Do you know, it's wonderful. It's actually a little bit, only a little bit cooler today. And it's wonderful. Let's lift that up. There we go. So you can see I'm just building up that background. Let's place that. I should have left that on there rather than faffing. And you want to get it in the right place if you can. So I'm going to take this again. And it's just that background we're creating at the moment. So I've done nothing complicated. The only thing I've done is inked and stamped. So then I'm just going to think about where I'm going to place this. So let's have that around about there. So I actually missed the bottom of this one. I've not caught that one at all. And you don't have to make your arms ache. You can just give that a little bit of time just to make an impression on that card. I've loved sharing this weekend with Heidi and Nicola. And it's just been wonderful just to share lots and lots of inspiration with you, just so that you get those stamps out and they're not sitting on the shelf. It's just been amazing. So what I can do now is not pick the card up. I'll just ink the whole stamp because it's just far easier than to try and get a specific area. But I'm just keeping that copier paper underneath because it means then I don't get this oily ink on my non-stick craft sheet and then spending time cleaning the non-stick craft sheet. So I just want to add a little bit of that here. So you can see I'm just creating a little bit of a background with the stamp, which is fun as well. Can't pick anything up. So can I get away with not using... feel like I'm trying to not use, because I would need, I don't know whether I've got two Abutilon masks. Let's have this down here. So I'm trying to make it so I don't need two masks. So I'm just creating a background as simply as possible. So I'm going to bring this one down here. Can you still see that? You can. Again, just repeating that process of just giving that some time just to make an impression on there. Obviously, you know, if you've got any dexterity problems, then use your stamping platform. Because with your stamping platform, the advantage is obviously you can keep going over and stamping if you've missed a little bit. Okay, wonderful. So now I'm just going to add little bits of stamping here and there, just to fill in my gaps. There we go. So I'm going to add part of one here. And by stamping it sort of in different ways, it just makes the background a little bit more pleasing. But that it would be a card in itself, wouldn't it? Those three there could quite easily be a card in its own right. And I never lift the acrylic block too quickly. I'm always mindful about taking my time. So then we'll add, and again, each time I ink the whole thing, mainly because I can't decide what area I'm going to use at that stamp. There we go. Let's add a little bit of the stamping there. So it's nice just to have some off the edge stamping as well. For me, it just looks a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So shall we just add a little bit down the bottom here, like so. So we'll add a little bit of that down the bottom there. So the only thing you've done is literally create a random background with your floral. And I've stamped in grey so that it's not, well, just so it's a little bit different than stamping in black, really. That's all. There we go. I'm going to use that grey ink again, so we can remove this. So we've now got, pick it up, our background created. And what I'm going to do then is just using the stamps that are on my desk, I'm going to use TE11, which is background elements. And I'm going to add the grey ink. And what I'm going to do is just sort of press it lightly on my copier paper, just so it takes some of that ink off. And then I'm going to add the second generation stamping to my background. It makes it look a little bit more sort of botanical. So let's add a few little texty bits here. And TE11 works beautifully with all the stamps. So let's add a little bit of stamping there. And I'll lift this up just so that you can see what look I have. So you can see I've got some open areas on the card, and I'm aiming a little bit of text just in those areas. So I'm going to lift this up just so that you can see. Let's move that out of the way. Let's remove this, and then we haven't got another file on my desk. Oops. Okay, so I've got my background now. Let's move these out of the way because I need to bring my cutter up, which is never easy because it takes up the whole of my desk area. And I've got paints on my desk, everything on my desk from the weekend. So let's move the every colour known to man. I've got Distress Oxide sprays. Right, so I'm just bringing my cutter. And then what I'm going to do is, so the card is 4 by 6 inches. So I'm going to cut that. Is that right? It says 4 inches, isn't it? Yeah, 4 inches. So I'm going to cut 2 inches. That doesn't look enough. Do you like how I question myself? Oh well. There we go. It does. Just didn't look right. You know, when you're cutting it, you think, that doesn't look right. So then I'm going to do, so I've cut it in 2 inches so that you've got the card cut in half. And then I'm going to cut into 2-inch squares. 2-inch squares. So just cutting these in 2-inch squares. Okay, so leave them so that you've got them in the order that you stamp them, especially if you can pick them up. There we go. And then let's do this one. So just at 2 inches again. And then again, oh, and we'll just keep banging the cutter down. So just be mindful of keeping them in the order that I stamped them in. There we go. So I've cut those into 2-inch squares, and then I'm going to keep the same bit of copier paper, and then I'm going to outline each one with my black Posca pen. So outline each square. I think we'll get some scissors because Tracy's nails are going to irritate her. There we go. So I'm using the paper just to keep my area clean. There we go. So I'm just keeping them in the order that I've stamped them. So I'm just adding a faux black mat. When you see me go over a couple of times, that's just because I'm not happy with the depth of the black on the edges. Leave that there. Oh, oops. Oops. I'm not going to get rid of that mark. That mark is there, so we'll have to leave it at the moment. And then let's add our little squares. So just going around, and just be mindful that you don't make the same mistake I've made. But it's important that people see you making mistakes. Not everything's perfect. It's also important that people see that you have mishaps as well, and that not everything works the first time, but you don't get too stressed about it. There we go. So that's there, and let's bring in and the way you can prevent that is hold your pen a little bit lower down so it just sort of doesn't flick out of your hand. The problem is, if you'd have cut the squares out first, it'd have been too regimental, your stamping, not quite as organic and natural looking, because you would have tried to stamp perfectly. There we go. That's fine. So let's remove that Posca pen. Remove that card. So what I've got now is let's bring these in, the background that I created, including the mishap. Ooh. There we go. So you can see I've got those squares on there. Okay, so you can see I've got them on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay these down now, adhere these to another piece of 4 by 6 inch card, and I'm going to sneeze because that's what Tracy does most of the time on her videos. I need some more glue in here, but I just love that it just works every single time. I'm not faffing with. So I'm going to put this right up into, let's lift that up, lift that into, right into the edges. That's it. Then take my next one, so just like a jigsaw. That goes here. Or you try to put it there, and then you spend ages trying to get that in line. That's perfect. So if you'd tried to sort of cut the 2 inch squares out, you can do it that way and stamp it, but it's not going to be as natural where you've got just parts of the floral just on there. It works a little bit better and more natural, for me personally, by just having parts of the floral. It's just natural that if we'd have cut the 2 inch squares, we'd try to stamp the image on perfectly. So you can see I've got a little bit, it's just more natural. Let's take this. Okay. Just add. Now, it doesn't matter how perfect you are. You try to line it up perfectly. If you've got it slightly off, it doesn't matter. Let's add this here. Look, even with said mistake. Can you see? Well, you can't miss it. Never mind, can you see? Let's push that down a bit. There we go. So you can see now it looks beautiful, like it's just part of a puzzle. It just looks really lovely. Okay, we'll leave that adhesive out of there. And then what you can decide is if you want to colour some areas of your floral. So if I take some of the greens that I used in yesterday's video, and you can decide to just colour one area or two areas or bits of areas. It's entirely up to you. So I'm using the same colours I did yesterday, which is dark green. It wasn't that one. Dark green, which is PC 908, moss green PC 1097, and chartreuse 989. And those are the colours that I'm going to use. So you can decide which areas you want to colour. You don't have to colour every area. So just starting with the dark green, just to colour part of that area. So with that dark green, and then have a think what other areas you want to colour. So maybe this one where it's just part of the image. So maybe it's just part of the image. So let's have one up here as well. So I'm just using that dark green just to add the dark green. Just to colour part of the image. And it just gives you a different idea with your floral. So come in. So I'm coming to my second colour, which was that moss green, and we're just going to colour into our previous colour with the moss green. Let's just go up here. My iPad is going absolutely mental with messages. So let's just add that. Let me have a look. Do you know, I nearly lost the one that we'd just done before. Do you know, this mossy green is just lovely. There you are. So if you want it to be a one-layer card, you don't have to worry about posting it because it's all one layer. I know we've laid that onto there, but there's not much thickness in there. Now I want to be mindful about colouring, just so that we've got a beautiful finish. There we go. And I'm not going down to this area, it's just in the square that I'm colouring. And just a little bit here. So I'm going to come back now and repeat the process, but I'm going to add more layers. Do you know, I absolutely love colouring. But what I'm doing now is I'm just simply enjoying the process. And I have to say a huge thank you to you all for your support over this weekend and today. it's been amazing, absolutely amazing. And we will do this again another time because I can see you've really enjoyed the inspiration. And for me, the inspiration and education is key. So let's just bring that down a little bit more. I keep forgetting this little one here because I've only done a little bit here. There we go. Then I'm going to come to the moss green, the PC 1097, and we're going to go into that dark green with the moss green. It's a mouthful, that, as you know. So just come in with your moss green now into your previous colour. And it starts to smooth out the more areas of that white card you fill in, the gaps. So it starts to smooth out. Make sure that your VersaFine Clair is dry. Obviously my ink pad's not super juicy, so that's fine. But if, say, you were using a black, just make sure that your ink that you've stamped with, your VersaFine Clair, is dry, because those waxy pencils will pick up that ink if it's not dry, because they're waxy. I love the chartreuse. It gives some brightness to that card. But isn't it a fun little technique? If you're looking for a simple idea, it's a nice little fun technique to do. And again, it's not complicated. If you wanted to and you hadn't even got a cutter, you could just cut it by hand. It doesn't have to be perfect. It should just be slightly different. You could tear them out because you can still put them back together again. And we take, and it works beautifully with such a detailed stamp like this. So just going into the previous colour, just with that lovely mossy green. There we go. Then we'll come with our chartreuse. Into the previous colour. Again with this one, into the previous colour. And I think it looks so effective with just part of the images coloured, and just gives the stamp a different feel. Come in with another layer of that green. You might not be able to see clearly on the camera, but I'm actually layering down another layer of that pigment, and I'm only allowed to do that because I've not pressed too hard, so it gives me the option just to layer that again, just so you get that lovely rich pigment layer. Again with the lovely mossy green. See, I could do this with all the stamps but it does work with quite a detailed stamp really nicely. And I love the fact that we haven't got whole flowers. We've got parts of that flower. And I'll just grab that white pencil. Where's my nice sharp one? There it is. Just particularly for this one here. Just so that those chartreuse edges are not quite so harsh. Here's okay and there's okay. But you can see, doesn't that look effective? So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take my Abutalon text here. We've got some spare card that I had left from yesterday. Proves I didn't tidy my desk away. So let's take that Abutalon. Let's add that. Let's add this. There we go. Just cut that down to size. And I'm going to add a faux black mat to this. Hold that pen a little bit lower down. And can you see the black Posca pen is smudging because it's not dry yet? So just be mindful that obviously that takes a few moments to dry. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take the Abutalon text here. Now anybody would think that I made that mistake on purpose because I don't want the Abutalon. I was never going to put the Abutalon text across there because it splits everything off. I didn't want to put it there because it splits the squares. So here, where we made our mistake, or I did, is a happy accident. And there's always a way to just correct it. And for me, it was as if it was meant to be. So let's add the Abutalon here, like so. That's it. Beautiful. And if you want to, you can even add a little bird. So I'm going to add my little bird there. And I've used all the products that were on my desk from yesterday. I'm then going to add the little bird. Let's add that here, like so. It's that black ink. I've got nothing on there apart from just a few layers of ink. There's no oxides or anything. So I can just give that a few moments just to make an impression and lift. Lovely. So then I can just use my Posca pen. I've even bought, which I'm going to have a try of, Dr. P.H. Martin's liquid acrylic white as well. I've bought some of that white to see what that's like. We'll see. Just use my Posca pen and I'm going to just add some little squiggles, just of following some of the patterns on there. I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm just following some of the patterns on the stamp, just so that I've got some lovely markings. Now, before I add the splatters, just be mindful of your word here. You can add another piece of card over the top, so we can quite easily take some card. Oh, sorry, just shook the camera there, which is not professional. So we can take, oh, come on, the card. Just place that over the top. and then you're not worrying too much about where your Posca pen is going. I can just aim exactly where I want that Posca. Just take a little bit of a wipe. Let's move these out of the way. So I now don't have to worry about that because I've covered that area up, which is quite handy. Just use a little bit of kitchen roll so our surface is clean. I'm then going to add that to a black mat because it just really pops then against that background. So let's add that. Makes the card nice and sturdy as well. And we'll just add that to there. Let's bring that down a bit. And you can see Tracy never gets it spot on straight away. So I do have to move that a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to add that to a 5x7 card blank. Let's make sure that opens the right way. Something about the cards, once they're matted and layered, they just look so much better. And then if you have a little bit of white card showing, you can just go along with your Posca pen and you can just hide any edges that may be showing. It's just so easy to do. Clean the edge of your little tool just so that you've got no dry glue just lying there. There we go. And that is your nice simple card, but how effective is that? I just love it. So I hope you've enjoyed another demonstration for our promotional weekend, and that code once again is Tracy10, all capitals, no spaces, at checkout, and you will get 10% off your basket. But how effective is that? I just love that. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.